What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for the match review stream after a long journey home last night from Brighton. We have lost by 3-2, and it was a really hard one to take yesterday. It really was. Look, you know how the stream goes. We're going to go match review, player ratings, 5 takeaways, and then see how the internet did react to the game. But let's get straight into the match review. It was an absolute shambles yesterday on the pitch at the Amex. And you know how the old saying goes, when Spurs fans get too confident, they like to throw it back in your face. And we most definitely did that. I mean, you'd be hard pressed to find a Spurs fan who didn't predict the Spurs win going into the game yesterday. And then even more so at half-time, be hard pressed to find a Spurs fan who didn't think we were going to go on in the second half and absolutely batter them. Because that's what was happening in the first half. We absolutely were playing brilliant. We were playing brilliantly. We were creating chances. I thought Dom Solanke, Decky and Brennan Johnson were causing havoc down that right-hand side. Dom Solanke was heavily involved in both goals. Brennan Johnson gets 6 and 6. And at half-time, it just all looked so rosy, didn't it?
Yeah, and to be fair, in that first half, you know, when we looked at the match preview and we're discussing how the game was going to go, it pretty much was going exactly as we thought it would go. Tottenham were able to get in behind time and time again. Werner and Johnson causing all sorts of problems on the wings. You had Maddison, Decky, Solanke linking up really well in the centre. I thought Solanke was having a brilliant game. He obviously got a brilliant assist for Brennan's goal. He put in Timo in behind very early on as well, for that chance in the first minute. Brighton did have a bit of joy out on the left-hand side with Matoma, but apart from the chance for Welbeck, didn't really trouble us too much. Van de Ven and Romero were kind of mopping everything up on their sides. I thought Romero, his passing was phenomenal. I thought he was really setting Tottenham up on attack. Kulusevski was getting all sorts of joy down that right-hand side as well. And obviously we made it pay with two nice goals. Obviously we had that goal ruled out from VAR as well, just before we scored the first one. I think it was within like a few seconds after we had that goal ruled out. We won 1-0 up.
Yeah.
And it was all literally all going to plan. It was all really rosy. And even the Spurs players had this sense of how comfortable they were in the game. And I think going into half time, maybe they thought the game was won because, you know, you saw the celebration to the second goal. I thought maybe once we went 2-0 up, everyone thought with that lead, we'll just see out the game and it was just going to be comfortable from then on. But we should have known a team like Brighton, who've got all that attacking talent and who weren't really on their game in the first half, were always going to come out a bit and be a lot more physical and try fine. Welbeck said at half time, it wasn't about tactics or anything like that. It was about being able to be more aggressive and be up for the fight, which they weren't up for in the second half. And we weren't up for it. They weren't up for it in the first half, and we weren't up for it in the second half, and that completely changed the game. Didn't help at all that the defence was an absolute shit show in that second half. The defensive errors we were making. If you actually look at the situation, everyone's obviously going to there'll be a lot of, in my opinion, analysis about Ange and his high line, all this kind of stuff. But if you look at the defensive situations we were in before we conceded, just before we conceded, we're in very good situations, but a lot of terrible errors, a lot of constant errors from a few defenders meant that we failed to deal with a number of situations which on another day we should really been dealing with, and that cost us big time. And we ended up losing the game from a position where we should never be losing from. And it's hard to take because, as I say, first half, it was all going so well. We were playing some brilliant football and just looked like it was so easy to open up Brighton. And the fact that we gave up that situation and ended up losing is hard to take.
It really is. And I completely agree with you. That's one of the points I was going to make coming into this, because I've seen a lot of criticism for Ange coming into it. And look, he should come under criticism, no doubt about it, because he should have made changes a lot earlier, but I don't think that's exactly what lost us the game. What lost us the game was players not showing the fundamentals in that second half. They did not want the fight. They were not up for the battle whatsoever. Doggy was getting terrorised down that left-hand side. Van de Ven was getting ripped a new one by Minte. I mean, how many times did Minte just stroll past a Van de Ven, which we haven't seen ever, probably, from Mickey? Romero, there was some embarrassing defending in there from Romero as well. Lazy challenges being put in. Danny Welbeck literally just strolls in between Porro and Romero for that goal to get himself a free header in the box. Where is the defence? It's just embarrassing, that kind of defending for that third goal. When you know that Brighton have just come back from 2-0 down, and then a few minutes later you're just letting Welbeck just stroll past you, just casually. It was unbelievable what I was seeing. And Doggy had his hand in 3 of those goals. It brings the question, was he fit enough to start this game? I don't know.
He looked in the first half all right.
He looked okay. But I don't think it was maybe what we've seen from him for, coming in the build up to this game from a Doggy. I don't think it was as good as maybe I can't remember the games off my head, but the games where he's performed really well in, like the first half of Manchester United. I think it was a far cry from that. But the individual errors was disgraceful, nothing short of disgraceful, and it's unacceptable. You can't. There's a clear mentality problem at this football club, because we sit here and talk about this time and time again under copious different managers, under copious different players, and it's hard to put your finger on what it actually is. But to go 2-0 up and to put in such a like they just looked like they were just sapped of energy. It's like they were playing in gear 5 in the first half, and then second half they went all the way down to 1, and they said it on Match of the Day last night. Like if you start at gear 5 and then you go all the way to 1, it's hard to get back up. And I think that's exactly what we saw on that pitch yesterday. And it's really hard to take. It really is, because after seeing your team perform so well, to so shit all in the space of 90 minutes, it's just like only Tottenham, man. Only Tottenham can do this to you.
Mm-hmm. And what's really frustrating is that, as I say, in the first half, like the structure and the system was looking brilliant, and it was obviously carrying on that trajectory well for coming into this game off the back of 5 wins, and we're looking really good. Obviously, a really great win at Old Trafford last week, got a good win in midweek as well, away in Europe, and to be 2-0 up at a difficult away day like Brighton in the manner that we were was impressive, and I thought we were really impressive in that first half, and I think Ange completely called it after the game, saying there was a lack of fundamentals and there was a lack of being up for the fight. And I think the stat, if you go into on SofaScore, I think the stat tells the story of if you look at the duels in the first half, it says here. 60,
is that on SofaScore?
Yeah, you go on stats and you scroll down onto there's defensive stats when you scroll down.
Oh yeah, if you bring it up.
If you go to the first half, duels won, it says here 68% duels won in the first half, 80% of tackles won in the first half as well. So we were just this is what I was saying for the game. You need to win that midfield battle, because whoever controls that midfield is going to be able to find the spaces in behind. Because,
and that was the second half, by the way.
And then second half,
40% tackles won.
40% tackles won, and the duels won dropped to 54% from 68. So a big drop off there as well.
This one says 58%.
54% I've got here.
We've got the app and the website showing us different.
Won 50. Maybe you're looking at overall.
No, it says first half 68%, second half 58%. But anyway, it's only a 4% difference.
No, here the duels. I'm looking overall duels here.
Oh, overall duels, yeah, 54%. I'm looking at ground duels.
So a big drop off on the first half, and that can cost you. Even a 10% drop off, like it was in the second half, can cost you. And obviously, tackles won, clearly that's a big drop off. And we were just putting in lazy legs. You say Romero was getting his timing wrong. Van de Ven was getting spun like I've never seen him get spun before. The Doggy for the third goal, just letting Rutter walk through him like he wasn't even there.
Bentancur was nowhere to be seen in that second half as well.
Third one, why isn't he putting it out of play? I don't know what he's thinking for that third goal, Bentancur. I think he's trying to see it out of play and get a goal kick, and he allows Rutter to get a sliding challenge and get round him. And actually, not only does he get a sliding challenge in, he puts an inch-perfect cross right into Welbeck's head. But Bentancur has to be dealing with that situation, making sure he gets his body in the way that even if Rutter does win a sliding tackle, that he cannot let that ball go across the face of goal like that. If he has to put out for a corner, put out for a corner. He cannot allow Rutter to get that cross in. Romero not looking around to see where Welbeck is. I think, in fairness to Romero, he expects Bentancur to deal with the situation, but if you're a defender,
there's no fairness to Romero in that situation. I'm sorry. Yes, fine, he should be expecting the defender to deal with it on the left-hand side, but you have to have some awareness about you're a World Cup winning defender. You've got to be ready for every single situation and scenario.
But
there's no to be fair to Romero.
From his point of view, we're about to win the ball back. We're in control of that situation. He doesn't expect the ball to be coming across.
But you still need to be aware of every situation.
I understand that. I'm not saying he's not at fault, because if you're a defender, you have to expect the worst. You have to be prepared for the worst, not planning for us regaining control of the situation. But with the Brighton player didn't have the ball at that point. We had the ball. Bentancur was in control of the situation, and it probably took him by surprise that Rutter obviously got the ball across the face of goal, and by that point it's too late because Welbeck's got the run on him. But Romero has to be aware that there's a striker in the box, and if Rutter does get something on that, then we're in trouble if he's not alive to the situation, and he wasn't alive to the situation. So absolutely, he has to take blame for that. But I put a lot more blame on Udogie and Bentancur because they both had control of that situation at that point. Udogie, we actually had 3 men around Rutter. That is disgraceful how we allowed him just to get to the byline, and Bentancur was in control of that situation before he allowed Rutter to get the slide challenge in.
In all 3 of the goals that we conceded, we were actually in good defensive shape. We were actually looked like we had all the situations under control for all 3 goals, and it was just individual errors. That's why I don't understand people coming in and disgracing and complaining about Ange's tactics. There was nothing wrong with Ange's tactics in this game. It was all individuals that lost us that game yesterday. And, you know, I complained, and a lot of people were complaining in the stadium about the subs, and we should have brought on subs earlier, which is true. We should have. You saw after the first goal, we were struggling. After the second goal, we were struggling. And then he waits until 5-10 minutes after we concede the third goal to make changes. And 100%, the changes need to come earlier. Bring on Bissouma, give us a bit of extra legs in midfield where we were clearly struggling. However, even if he does make those changes, I really don't think it probably changed a thing, to be honest.
Well, it's hard to know, but because I think the midfield 3 were completely non-existent. I think for sure after the second goal, I think you just got to take Udogie off because he was clearly struggling.
And you got Spence right there, just waiting.
Okay, you know, I don't know whether, as you say, he was struggling because did we rush him back from injury or whatever. As you said, I thought he looked all right in the first half. I didn't see any problems, but second half clearly. He wasn't himself, and he was getting absolutely spun, which is not like Udogie. He's usually, he's so physical. He's usually good in those moments. So the fact he was getting spun like he was.
What was he doing for the first goal, by the way? The first.
Yeah,
what was he doing?
Clearance. He got the misjudged the clearance. What I don't like about that from the first goal wasn't that he got the clearance wrong, which obviously is a bad mistake. But for some reason, once he gets that wrong, what he should be doing is charging right at Minter and making sure that he tries to get a block on. He kind of just waited for Minter to have the shot. He kind of just stood there waiting. I think maybe he was paralysed, wasn't sure if he should go off the line or something, but he should just be charging him into making sure he's getting as close as possible to him so he can block the shot. But as soon as he misjudges it, he just kind of allows, Minter had time to just wait for the ball to drop and just score into the near post. I think Udogie had a bit of time just to charge at him, and he didn't do it, which is really, really frustrating. But yeah, he got obviously the clearance really wrong, and it falls to Minter, and they score. Udogie obviously Van de Ven slides and get his clearance, also gets that wrong for the cross from Mitoma, which was a good cross, but Van de Ven, we had Van de Ven and Udogie both there, and they both failed to deal with it. The second goal, once Mitoma picks up the ball in a pocket of space, again, gives it off to Rutter, and he's got 2 men on him. He's got Udogie covering, and he's got Van de Ven there as well. Both of them just so weak, none of them putting a challenge in. And I know Rutter's a good dribbler. Clearly, he's good in those tight spaces. But you got to have something about you, even if it means just bring him down or making a foul. You can't allow Rutter to get in behind like that when you've got 2 defenders there, in front of him. They didn't even get behind him. They were both in front of him. One of you's got to put a foot in, and they were just both weak in the challenge. And the third goal is probably the worst of the lot. Absolute shambles from the whole defence, to be honest. So it was just when you're when you're defending like that, it wasn't about structure at all. It wasn't like they were just catching us off guard and catching us in behind, like and we kept getting caught. It was just we had control of those situations, and lapses from individuals. It was absolutely damning. And I mean, Ange I can understand Ange's anger and frustration after that game, because how we can allow those situations, all three of them we were in control of, to end in goals like they were. And in the end, when you look at the start of those moves to the end, like, you won't be able to believe they end up in those situations. Like, it's just incredible. So, but I guess a worrying thing is not only how we felt to deal with those situations, but there was a lack of reaction. There was no response from the team. We didn't know how to deal with Brighton up in their game. All of a sudden, we were weak. We were just forced into going long. There was no ability to build up and play through the lines like we were in that first half. We were just like, all of a sudden, it was like lazy. It was almost as if, like, if we just knock it long, we can just stay out this game rather than continue to fight to play our football, which we usually very good at doing. Decky wasn't getting on the ball. I thought Madders was horrific. Werner was getting in behind that first half. We didn't see him at all in that second half. Brennan as well. Solanke, wasn't dropping deep and getting on the ball. We didn't see any of them in that second half, and they all have to take responsibility for that as well. And that is the most frustrating thing. Didn't have an ability to hurt Brighton. It's almost as if, like, we did our stuff in the first half, and we thought we don't need to continue to battle because we've won the game already. And I think Ange said it after the game. We felt like in that second half we're going to just come out and continue to play well. We didn't have to battle to earn the right to do that. And it's almost as if, like, we felt like we felt like we earned the right to kind of sack it off in the second half after how well we played, and that's completely unacceptable. And to be fair, under Ange, I think that's the first time we've given up a 2-goal lead, and we're usually very good in those situations when we take control of games. And yesterday was the first time we've probably seen that from our team, where we've got on ourselves in such a commanding situation and just sacked it off, and that's something that Ange has got to deal with.
It's worrying. It is a worrying. It was worrying to see that on the pitch yesterday. We had no answers to anything. Like, we could not. We weren't even attempting to break them down in the second half. We were just playing these stupid passes. I felt like in the second half, the only one that was trying to really, like, break the lines or go forward or ask questions of Brighton was Kulusevski. He was the only one who I thought that was trying to do that. I thought everyone else was so bad. It was embarrassing. It was embarrassing watching that on the pitch yesterday, and I was embarrassed to be there, to be honest, because it was. I've just got no words to explain what I saw on that pitch. And do we have to have a conversation about last season? We were talking about how we were playing well in second halves and not playing well in first halves. There has been a few times this season where we have played really well in first halves, and in the second half we don't really come out. The Leicester game springs to mind, where obviously we draw the game in the end, but we played very well in the first half. Should have, had that game out of sight. And then all of a sudden we come under increasing pressure, and Leicester could have easily scored 2 or 3 goals in that 15-minute, 20-minute period. You're looking at even the Manchester United game last week. We put in an unbelievable display in the first half. And then Man United start to, ask a few questions of us. And then they get the sending off. And, if they don't get the sending off, was there a question to say Man United would have got back in that game? Who knows? But there is a bit of a trend. And there's also a trend with Romero this season. Romero, how many goals is he individually accountable for this season? This guy's supposed to be a world-class winning centre-back. He's supposed to be captain. Where was his leadership ability on the pitch yesterday? There was no accountability coming from Romero. Where was he? He's supposed to be the leader in that back line. He's supposed to be marshalling that back line. He was nowhere to be seen. Where's our leaders? There was a lack of leadership completely all over that pitch yesterday. And I think that's a really hard bit to take as well. Like, where is this leadership?
Mm-hmm. It's hard. I don't know. I mean, I'm not in the dressing room. I don't know what people are saying. I don't know what's happening on the pitch, but they clearly seem to be, especially when we're under the cosh, and especially when we need to get organised and we need to make sure that, especially when Brighton get that first goal back and they're getting back at the game, you can see the momentum changing. Sometimes you just got to get compact and I think you just need someone to get everyone together and say, look, they're clearly getting back in the game. We need everyone for the next 10 minutes or so just to really bow half of the team, everyone do their defensive duties, and everyone get together and just get organised. And there didn't seem anyone who was doing that. It's almost like when we let in a goal, everyone's quiet, everyone's just looking at each other, and it's almost like no one knows how to react. And we're not very good at when the momentum switches at dealing with that and stemming the tide. And we've always said when it comes to times in games, even the best of times, when it comes to times in games where Tottenham or the momentum's going against you and all of a sudden the opposition are having some control in the game and they're getting on our back four, we don't have it in us at the moment to kind of stay compact and go on a low block and defend properly. We've never had that under Ange. That's not been part of the way he plays. And we suffered for that kind of element yesterday, because as soon as Brighton got on top of us and as soon as they got on our back four, we had no answer to it. And we just they find it way too easy to create chances. And that is something that is a problem. And that's always been a problem under Ange. And I think the defence yesterday, it was very disorganised, everyone making bad individual errors. And I don't know if it's a lack of leadership, I don't know what the problem is, but definitely we seem to have a big issue when teams come up against us and they gain a bit of control. When they have periods in the match when they're on top, we seem to really struggle with that, and we definitely did that yesterday.
You know what I see sometimes with Romero, like, he's great when Spurs are like on top, when Spurs are in a good mood, when Spurs are winning, when Spurs are playing well. Romero is unbelievable. He's probably one of the best centre backs in the league. But when the chips are down, when it's going against us, when we're under the cosh, when we're putting in these moments, I think Romero just has this air of, I don't know if this is the way he feels, but this is what it looks like from an outsider looking in. It just looks like he just can't be arsed with this. That's what it looks like. And it's not the first time that we've seen these kind of traits from Romero. And it's really worrying for me. It really is, because he's supposed, like I keep saying, he's supposed to be a world-class, World Cup winning centre-back. And I love him. I love him as a player. But these traits do creep into his game when we're under the cosh. Maybe not when we're under the cosh, but when we're really struggling. And when things are going against us. He's the one that's supposed to be standing up and really, really taking it for the team and really, making everyone step up. But he's not. He goes hiding. And the whole of the team went hiding yesterday. Every single one of them. And I don't even know what to say anymore. It's just every time with Spurs, you think you've turned the corner. I said after the Brentford game, look, I think we're on the cusp of turning the corner. After that, we went and won 4 games in a row. Albeit, we beat Karabag, we beat Ferencvaros, and in that run we beat Coventry, and a good win away at Old Trafford, who obviously they're in a really bad moment at the moment. But it felt like within the fan base, and it felt like watching the team on the pitch, that we have turned the corner. But every time with Spurs, it's one step forward, 10 steps back. And when's it going to change?
We're Tottenham. Never another false dawn. We'll have to wait and see. Look, I know it's 3 defeats at the start of the season now in the first 7 games, which is not a good return. As much as we're coming into this game with positivity off the back of 5 wins, and there was definitely positivity starting to get into the fan base. And even in this game, first half was brilliant, but you can't excuse what we saw in that second half. But it's a new problem. What we saw yesterday was a different problem to what we've seen in other games. The Newcastle game and the Leicester game was all about finishing your chances and taking advantage when you're on top. Yesterday we did take advantage. We were going to half-time 2-0 up. Yes, you could say we should be 3 or 4 up, but 2-0, that's a good position. You can't argue, you can't complain about being 2-0 up away at Brighton at half-time. That's a position where you have to say, we did get that second goal, and we're in a position to kill off this game. And we came out in the second half as if we'd already won the game, and that's a different kind of issue that we've seen kind of in previous games. And Ange has got to make sure that complacency doesn't seep into this group if when we're on top. And I think that was a different kind of problem to what we've seen in other games this season, where I don't think it was complacency. I think it was more kind of having what's called take advantage of when you're in control of a game. And here, we did take advantage, and then we gave up control, and we allowed Brighton to bully us, and we weren't doing the fundamentals in that second half. And I don't know whether is it a fatigue thing? Is it because we play such an intense style of football that it looks like we're what's called given up? But actually, it is a fatigue thing, or is it a case of the players just getting complacent and thought the game was won. But how can you think the game was won when you concede right at the beginning of the second half? You know, there's a whole half there. You can't continue to be complacent. Surely that goal should wake you up at least. And you should be like, all right, we concede that goal, we're in for a game here. We need to be concentrated. No one's pulling anyone together and making sure that we're not letting our standards drop. We just let what happened yesterday happen. And I don't know, I did think Ange, I know he said, and maybe he was emotional after the game yesterday, but I thought what he said about the subs was really odd, in my opinion. It was a bit of a bizarre statement. He said, yes, I could have made subs earlier, but I don't think it was about subs because, you know, the way we were playing, if we were to get something out of the game, it would have been a false result, and I can't remember what he said, something like a false positive. And
he said that he didn't want to win a game that we don't deserve to win, or something along those lines.
Yeah, but that's a bizarre comment, because your job as a manager is, when you see those kind of things happening, is to manage the game and change things when you see where we need help. If we are struggling midfield, you have to get Basuma on, you have to get Saar on. If you see Udogie struggling, you have to get Spence on and make changes and influence the game. Your job isn't just watch things happen and say, well, if the players are going to play like that, then they've put us in this position, so it's on them to turn it around, kind of thing. I think it's really odd, bizarre position to take. Like, you're the manager, your job is to try and influence the game to get results. Your job isn't just to watch things play out and then blame the players for how things played out. Yes, the players have to take blame, don't get me wrong, and I'm very frustrated with them. But if you're the manager, like, I don't understand why he took that stance to not influence the game earlier, because he was so angry at the players that he didn't want to influence the game because that we wouldn't have got because we deserved to lose. I mean, I think that's a really bizarre take. I don't know whether it was he was just emotional and he was just frustrated with the players. That's why he said that. But I don't know. I thought that was really bizarre in my opinion, because that's not what I want my manager to do. I want my manager to influence him. I want my manager to get involved in the tactical things, make tweaks, get players on if he doesn't think other players are performing, make changes. And he didn't do that. And I just thought it was bizarre what he said after the game, to be honest.
I completely agree. And when you look at it, I don't think it was that lost us the game that he didn't make the changes. I think it was just an embarrassment for the players that were on the pitch. But when you do see Bentancur put in the performances that he's putting in, Udogie putting in the performance that he's putting in, and we've got clear replacements for those players, then you bring them on early. However, I was looking at Ange. I was literally looking at him for about 20 minutes, 25 minutes yesterday in this moment when we were going in and we were conceding goals. He literally stood on the sidelines there, arms folded, didn't move an inch, just watching it play out. Like, why aren't you trying to change the course of it? Whether I think it's going to change the course of it or not is irrelevant. He's the manager, like you say, and he's got to be doing more from the sidelines. But it was just an embarrassment from everyone.
Whether we're winning or losing, that's how he is. He always just stands there, because he said he likes to observe the game. He doesn't like to be influenced by too many. He's not like Conte, where he's going to be shouting.
I'm not asking him to shout, but there was clear lack of something on that pitch, and he's the one that should be giving it to them as well as the leaders on the pitch. And he is the manager. And why are you waiting until 72 minutes, 73 minutes to make a change when we've just conceded 3 goals in the space of 20 minutes?
No, that I agree with. And the fact that he said what he said after the game makes it even worse, to be honest, because it was almost like he knew, he could see what was going wrong, and he decided to keep it the same because he was so angry at the players or something. He decided to keep it the same. I don't know. I thought it was a really bizarre thing for Ange to say, and I think for sure he should have made changes earlier. As I say, I don't know if that's what cost us the game or not, but I definitely think it's on the manager when he sees what he's seeing in the second half to make sure that he's getting involved in managing the game and trying to get us the result instead of letting things play out like they did. And obviously we lost the game. I definitely, considering how we conceded the goals and a lot of that stuff, I definitely think the players have to take a large responsibility, because they were a shambles in that second half. And
I do think they take the majority of it.
And some of the mistakes, as I say, I don't think a lot of the mistakes were tactical or anything. It was just a shit show at the back, just complete mess, and players making mistakes left, right, and centre. And it wasn't even just like I don't even think I can look at those goals and say that there's one defender who's a problem there. Like, for each of the goals, there's basically two or three defenders making big mistakes in each moment, like just mistake after mistake, and it was just like it was a bit of a clown show in that second half. Some of the defending, to be honest, was really, really disgraceful. But when you see Brighton gaining momentum, and if you're not happy with some of the stuff you're seeing on the pitch, like he said at full time, we're not doing the fundamentals, this kind of stuff, well then get involved in the game and change it, and get some players on. Get Saar, who can win some duels. Get Basuma, who can maybe start patrolling the midfield a bit more. Get Spence, who can maybe has fresh legs. I'm not saying if we get Spence on, he would have dealt with Minter, because Minter was having a good game, but at least it stops Doggy's getting spun, and it stopped. I don't think Rutter, maybe Spence doesn't allow Rutter through like Udogie did for that third goal.
All top managers would have changed something. All of them. You're telling me if Pep saw that from his team, he's not changing something very early on in that second half. You're telling me if Klopp, he's not changing something very early in the second half. Arteta, whoever it is, Mourinho, Conte, all these managers would have changed something probably after the first goal, maybe even after the second. I think
first goal happened so quickly. You have to you don't know if that's a fair judgment of how that half is going to go. But definitely after the second goal, you've got to make a change, because clearly the momentum was shifting, and clearly something was happening after that second goal. Because I think the first goal happened after like a couple of minutes, and it was a bad mistake from Udogie. At that point, you're assessing, is it just a mistake from Udogie, or is it a problem with the team? But once that second goal goes in, you just know, you could feel it in the stadium. The momentum had shifted. They were getting on top of us. At that point, make a change immediately. Get Basuma ready, get Saar ready, make those changes, bring those players on. And then once it goes to 3-2, it's a different problem, because we go to 3-2, and then all of a sudden, now we need something different in the game, because once it's 3-2, you're now chasing the game, and you need all those attacking players to get back in the game, and we didn't have those on the bench yesterday. He brought on, obviously the only one we had Moore, who was brought on too late. Maybe he could have turned to Bergvall, given us a bit of energy, creativity, because Maddison wasn't happening for him that second half. He was a bit of a shambles, to be honest. We definitely did suffer a bit not having the Odegaard, Son and Richarlison available just to come on and change the game and add something different. Obviously, Moore was only given 5 minutes. But in a weird way, I understand more not making changes at 3-2 than I did at 2-2, if you understand, because we had all our best attacking players on the pitch. And are you really going to take those players off when you're trying to get back in the game? But he should have taken them off when the game was still in the balance, just to get us back control of the game again, to get us back on the front foot while the game was still open. But once it went 3-2, it's like we offered nothing once it went 3-2. I don't know whether it was just fatigue, or I don't know what it was, running out of ideas, but we offered nothing once it went to 3-2, and it was like game over all of a sudden.
Yeah, the players had no belief whatsoever that they could get back in the game. The fans in the stadium had no belief that they could get back in the game. There was belief sapped from everyone to do with Tottenham Hotspur. The complacency was fully kicked in, and it was over. The game was completely over. And
but how can that be with 25 minutes to go?
I don't know.
But a similar thing happened against Arsenal. 1-0 down, and there was like absolutely
We're
no
a terrible
belief.
team when we're behind, really.
Well, I think
we come back in it here and there, but on the whole thing, I feel like when we're up against it, we're not a good team at all.
Well, I think under Ange, weren't we, I don't know, last season one of the highest points coming back from losing positions?
I don't know. I don't remember. You tell me, you're the stat man.
We were at one point. I don't know if by the end of the season, but I remember in February, March time, we were quite good at, even though we would go 1-0 down, I think we were one of the highest teams at coming back and getting back in the game. But I don't know. It's almost. But I think it's almost like when we have a control of the game and then we let that control slip, we're very bad at reacting to that.
No way back. Oh man, I can't keep going through this with this club, man. It just kills me. It really kills me. But look.
But the frustrating thing is, we were in such a good spot and we were looking so good. I'm still hopeful that we're going in the right direction, and maybe this problem is something new because as I say, I think complacency and letting go of such a strong position is a new problem. That's not something that I think we've seen this season when we've had problems. Like the other games we've lost, it's been different problems. So this is something different Ange's going to sort. Obviously, always there are new problems that crop up in the season, and those are things you've got to battle against, and those are things Ange's got to figure out. He said at the end of the game, we have to that's something we have to deal with, and something I know that I can fix. And he said if I wasn't able to fix it, I wouldn't be in this chair. So it is a new problem, but on the bright side, if we can continue to start games like that and then not react in the second half like we did in that second half, then we'll be in a good position. But that's a harsh lesson we learned yesterday about you can't just think a game as won just because you're in total control. You have to make sure you keep your standards, especially off the ball, and not allow yourself to think that just because you're 2-0 up and cruising that the game is won. I think complacency was a big element of the game yesterday, and we have to guard against that. But I don't think complacency is something I associate us under Ange usually, but that was something that definitely came in yesterday.
Just feels like they just got way too big for their boots yesterday, and maybe it's not something you associate with Ange in terms of complacency, but I do feel like a lot of this season we've been playing really well in first halves and then kind of let it slip a bit in the second half, and we just haven't kind of felt the fate of it so far, and maybe it's been papering over the cracks a little bit. And you know,
papering over the cracks
in terms of our poor performances in second halves and not being punished for it.
Maybe.
Because we could have been, if those goals go in, the goals that, you know, Leicester created really proper gilt-edged chances in the first game of the season. Mm-hmm. And if those goals go in, we're probably having the same conversation here about that.
The only thing I can think of is the way we play. Well, clearly is a very intense way of playing. And we're always, you know, playing, always looking to take quick goal kicks and quick throw-ins and keeping the ball in play as much as possible. And when we're defending, we're intense and we're pressing. When we're attacking, we're always running intense. And I think, are we struggling maybe? It does seem to be a common theme once it gets to like 60 to 65. I mean, it happened earlier on Sunday, but usually once it gets to like 55, 60, 65 minutes, we start huffing a bit, and we ended up. I think the Newcastle game we conceded a similar time. Arsenal similar time. Leicester was a similar time as well. We're conceding around that time.
We're actually terrible from the hour mark till like the 75th, and then we kind of get a second wind towards like the last 15 minutes. That's a problem, but that's an identifiable problem that Ange can see and has to be able to deal with. And is it a case of we just need to be making subs earlier, and we need to be getting those fresh legs earlier so we can keep up that intensity? Because at the moment, it seems as though for about an hour yesterday was about 45 minutes, but usually for about 55 minutes or so to an hour, we can like keep up that intensity. And then there does seem to be a drop off for about 10 minutes. So even against Brentford, they had that period, didn't they, where they were on top of us for a bit, and before we got that second wind. Against Man United as well, they had that little period. What I'm saying. That's what I'm saying in every game.
Yeah, but as long as you can contain that, which we did against Brentford and Man United, then it's something that's manageable. But maybe that's something he really has to look at and think, why do we have these periods?
You talk about containing it, but then what if the goals go in? Like, they could easily have gone in and scored goals in those games. We were just lucky that they didn't.
Yeah, but against this is Premier League. Against most teams you play against, they're going to get some sort of chances. You know what I mean? It's very rare you just go a whole game where the opposition have nothing.
Yeah, but it's about how you respond to that.
Correct. And as I said, we do usually respond. We usually have a second win. We didn't have that second win yesterday, which is a problem. But we have to work out why during the game we have these periods where we're dropping off, and they're dropping off that intensity.
And if Ange's seeing it, then why the hell are you not making changes?
That's the thing. But now, after 7 games, you can see that's a problem, and hopefully we can start adjusting to that. I do think, this season there's already been some problems which he spotted and we've adjusted to, and we've sorted those problems out. But now we've got new problems, and this is definitely a problem which is identifiable that he has got to sort out, and that is something hopefully he can do.
Do you think that in terms of the wins, 5 wins on the bounce just now, I mean, were we getting a bit too ahead of ourselves as a fan base, thinking that Spurs were on the right track, that Spurs were kind of turned the corner? Because if you look at it and look at who the wins came against, I mean, we beat Coventry in a terrible performance, turned it around in the last minute. We beat Karabag and Ferencvaros, who we should be beating every day of the week, let's be honest. And we go away to Old Trafford, who look like they're about to sack their manager, who are in a very bad moment. And
They
then
drew away at Villa.
yeah,
So
but Villa were knackered after that game against.
still got a point. You expect Villa to win that game.
You do expect Villa to win that game, but I mean, I'm looking at Man United fans. They're complaining how bad they were, and they were lucky to get away with it yesterday. And the Brentford game at home, where we should be beating them at home. I know Brentford are a good side, but we should still be beating them. So, out of all those 5 wins, which one was actually impressive?
It's not about. First of all, the way we played was impressive. Whatever you want to say, I think it was impressive, and the way we played in that first half was impressive as well. So, I do think we did turn. I don't know, turned a corner as we've said. Even yesterday, there was some very good things about the performance, especially in that first half. I don't think the second half takes away from those 5 wins, in my opinion. And yes, no one will say we're going to win the league. I still think we're going to be competing for top 4 and all that kind of stuff. But that second half, definitely we've got to learn some very harsh lessons, and we have to learn some lessons from yesterday. I don't think we have to, just because we were terrible in that second half, detracts from the improvements we've made in the past 5 weeks, in my opinion. We've seen Brennan starting to score goals. We've seen Solanke really get involved. We saw that adjustment, getting Kulusevski in the middle with Maddison. We saw some good stuff from that even yesterday as well. First half, we contained Brighton really well, and I think we just need to carry on in that direction. I wouldn't like make wholesale changes off the back of that game. Like, I still think we're moving in the right direction. Just the second half was a harsh lesson of getting too ahead of ourselves and being complacent, and we have to guard against that. But
So then you do agree, then we were getting too ahead of ourselves then?
no, that's got nothing to do with getting ahead of ourselves in what way? What were fans saying? That was ahead
Fans
of ourselves.
said, well, we were all looking forward, saying, "Oh, we're just going to go on this big winning run. We were going to batter Brighton.
We should have
we'd
battered them.
completely turn the corner."
We should have battered them. We've turned a corner results-wise, and I think performance-wise, we're starting to score more goals. We were putting teams to bed, like scoring more goals. And even yesterday, 2-0 up at half-time. That's a very good situation. We've done really well to get in that situation. We got ahead of ourselves in that game. I wouldn't say just because of that second half that takes off all the good work we've done in the last few weeks. I don't think it does, but it's definitely a big blow. Don't get me wrong, and I'm fuming with how they performed that second half. And we definitely got ahead of ourselves in that game, thinking the game was won. Maybe the fans as well thought the game was won at half time.
The fans did. There was a complacency through everyone.
Correct.
From the fans and the team.
Correct, but I don't think just because of that means actually the progress hasn't been there, and we're like back to square one. I wouldn't go that far, because we clearly showed yesterday. We, like in that first half, we played Brighton off the park. We should have been out of sight, and the complacency was that we thought the game was won at half time. I don't think the problem is that actually this team isn't making progress, because I do think it is.
Yeah, look, I was just asking the question. I actually agree. I think that Spurs are on the right track still. I genuinely believe that, and I think that we have shown improvements. But the reality is, kind of this season so far, we're kind of like shoulda FC. We should have beaten Leicester. We should have beaten Newcastle. We should have beaten Brighton. We need to change the shouldas into we just did it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it's been too many times now where at the end of games, we're sitting there thinking, oh, we played really well. We should have done this. We should have done that. We should have done this. We need to do it on the football pitch. And we need to do it for 90 minutes.
Well, that's the aim of the game.
Yeah. And we're not doing it at the moment. We've lost 3 games already. And it's only, 7th of October, which is not good enough.
Of course not. And I'm sure, it's, I think points-wise, it's our worst start since Ramos, which isn't good enough.
And it's Man United's worst start to a Premier League campaign ever, or something crazy like that. And we're only 2 points above them. So this time last season, we hadn't lost a game yet.
Yeah, but then we went through a mad run where we lost 5 in a row.
Yeah, because of the injuries and all that.
Yeah. So hopefully that doesn't happen this time. And hopefully we have a more sustainable level performance. I still think we're on the right track. As I said, I'm fuming about yesterday, but I still think when the international break comes around, after the international break, I know we have to mull over this result for 2 weeks, but I'm still confident we can go into that West Ham game and win. I'm still confident we can get back on track after the international break. But it's a big blow, especially when you're 2-0 up and cruising. It's a big blow.
When you look at it as well, like Ange, when we were on this good run, it was just before yesterday, he was saying in his press conferences, like, yeah, we're playing really well, but there's still going to be bumps in the road. You know what I mean? It's going to be up and down. We're still kind of dealing with a lot of change that's happened within the squad. We've got very young players as well. It's not just going to be, as he says, a linear process where it's just going to go up and up and up and up and up. You're going to see things like this, but still, the traits and the mentality that we saw in that second half is kind of inexcusable at that moment in time, and it's up to the players to turn it around now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that is it. That is our match review from the game yesterday.